Hey everybody, my name's John Simmons. I'm the chef at Firefly Tapas Kitchen and Bar. Today on Chef Live, I'm going to make a classic tapas dish. It's called Albondigas, which is basically just little meatballs in a tomato sauce. It's a great little finger food. Tapas are basically a lot of different little finger foods that you eat as you drink and as you converse. So this is one of those dishes that's really easy to pass around, and it's a nice one to make ahead too. So let's proceed. I've got some ground beef here, about a pound. We're gonna make our albondiga mix of the beef. This is kind of a recipe that I concocted myself. I put some of these panko breadcrumbs, which is a Japanese white breadcrumb. It's just pretty much the center of a white bread without the crust. So it's mild and it soaks up a lot of juices. Put about a half a cup of that in there. Then I put in some cream. So then the bread, the panko breadcrumbs, is going to soak up this cream, and it's going to make the albondigas, give it kind of a nice, really creamy texture on the inside. So about equal parts of the cream and the breadcrumbs. What the cream does, it just enriches the meat so it's not as tough, and it just gives it that nice creamy interior. Got some huevos. I'm gonna put those in here too. The eggs are gonna bind it. So I'm loosening it up with the cream and the breadcrumbs, and then I'm tightening it up with a little bit of the egg. And the yolk of the egg also gives it a little richness too. Okay, let that sit, let the breadcrumbs soak up some of that stuff while I chop my parsley. Parsley's going to have a lot of dirt in it, so make sure that you clean it really well and then shake it out really well to get all the water out. Chop that up. This fresh parsley really enlivens the dish. A lot of people think of parsley as something that's on the side of your plate that you throw away. But actually, it's got a lot of flavor and a lot of vitamins in it. It just gives the dish a nice extra kind of fresh tang. I'll put that in there. Nice fresh parsley. Got some chopped garlic, measured exactly perfectly, as usual. Red pepper flakes to give it a little heat. And some salt. So here comes the fun part. We get to play in the mud. Mix this up. Oh yeah. Big tub of mush, but it should all come together nicely. It's going to be a little bit looser than maybe people are used to with their meatballs. That's from the cream, but as they cook, they tighten up. The best part about this is tasting it, to make sure that the seasoning is done properly. Some people maybe don't like to taste raw beef, and I say to you people, cook it. If you want, you could just cook it. Just throw it in a little pan, a hot pan, and cook it, taste it. Make sure it's got enough salt, enough pepper. But for me, raw beef is good. So, that's good. You just want to taste pretty much that you have enough salt in it. Got that mixed up. Okay, we're going to bake these. They also can be fried. Most people don't have a fryer at their disposal like we do at the restaurant. I usually drop mine in the fryer because it gives it a really crunchy exterior, and the center still stays creamy, but they're also good baked. I'm going to put a little oil on my pan. You can also do like a spray, like a Pam spray or something, vegetable spray, just so they don't stick. We're going to make these balls just like little one inch meatballs. Then we're going to bake them at, I like to bake them at a real high heat, like 450. Again, that way you get the nice brown caramelization on the outside. And they're so small, they cook quickly, so you gotta use a nice high heat. This is fun too. Oh, you know what? I forgot to put one thing in. Parmesan cheese. Another little secret. Do a little quick remix. So I've got my Parmesan incorporated in there too. The Parmesan's going to kind of melt in there, and you're not even going to be able to notice that's in there, but it just adds a little hint of the nutty flavor. And always use real Parmesan. Like, don't get the grated powdered stuff in the can that's not even refrigerated. Get real Italian Parmesan cheese. It makes all the difference in the world. Okay, so let's make our balls. These are going to be baked too, so that'll help kind of, not that this is a healthy recipe, but you know, it's obviously a little bit more healthy when you don't throw them in the fryer for 10 minutes when you're baking them like this. Yeah, so that cheese is going to melt into them and kind of just disintegrate into the meat. It's also going to help to bind it a little bit. You can also use ground pork, ground veal too, but for me the beef has got a little bit more flavor. Or you can use a mixture of all of them. You want kind of little, you know, maybe 1-inch balls. And then they're going to cook, they're going to shrink up a little bit. And then we're going to float them in a beautiful tomato and pepper sauce, which I will make as these bake. Okay. Do one more here. Beautiful. So I'm going to throw these in a nice hot oven. The oven's set at 450. They're going to cook in about 10 minutes. Then we're going to let them rest for a minute. So while that's cooking, we're going to make our nice tomato and pepper sauce. It's John Simmons from Firefly. I'm going to show you how to dice an onion like a real chef. Seems like a kind of a something that most people know how to do instinctively, but there's a certain way that you do it that is the best. All the big shots do it like this. Cut off both sides, like that. You want to just take off the outside peel. A lot of people, there we go. Take out the outer skin. A lot of people want to cut it this way. The real way to do it is to go this way. Cut it in half. Now you want to cut your lines with the grain of the onion. make one slice this way. Then you dice your onion like this. That's your quick tip. Diced onion. Now this sauce is great because it's very versatile. I mean, you can use it for this dish. It's also great if you're making a pizza or if you're making pasta. So you make a little extra for your albondigas, and then you could save the extra and toss it with some pasta the next day if you want. I've got a pan here heating up. So this is a great recipe. It's just a really quick tomato sauce. I throw in some roasted red peppers as well. I buy these already roasted in a can. I know a lot of chefs, like, they think they have to do every single thing and make every single thing from scratch. But for me, you know, when you're roasting a red pepper, what you do, you take it, you put it over the fire, you have to turn it all around, then you have to put it in a plastic bag, and then you have to steam the skin off of it, then you peel it, take out all the little seeds, you make a big mess, then you slice it up to get exactly what you would have gotten if you just bought it already done in a can. You know? That's just me. Certain things, like the products in a can, are just as good as if you make it yourself, and it's a lot easier. Here's another one. If you can find some really good plum tomatoes peeled, I use, for my tomato sauce at the restaurant, I use exclusively canned tomatoes because tomatoes are so seasonal, it's so hard to keep them consistent that if you find a great product like a San Marzano plum tomato, like shipped over from Italy, it's a beautiful thing. And my sauce is always going to be the same year-round, whether tomatoes are in season or not. Plus, I'm lazy, so that helps. Let's do this. Find an onion. I'm going to dice an onion. Make sure that you've got your pan preheating over there. So that it's ready to go. I'm just going to make a small amount, just enough. We're going to sweat these onions and garlic just until they're translucent. A little olive oil. I use this, it's kind of my all-purpose oil. It's a blend of olive oil and vegetable oil. So you get a little flavor from the olive oil, but it's also vegetable oil, so it's easier to saute in and cook in. Aha! You hear that? That's what it's supposed to sound like. Sauté means to jump in French. So when you put your stuff in the pan, it should jump like that. If you put your stuff in a cold pan, then it's not going to be the same. You're not going to get the caramelization and the extraction of the flavor. So first we're going to saute garlic and onions. Now this is going to turn, like all the onions are going to turn translucent so you can see through them and get a little bit brown. What else do I need? Oh, I need a little sugar too. I like to throw a little bit of sugar in there just to combat the acid from the tomatoes. Some red pepper flake. I'm going to hit it with my canned tomatoes. Now make sure you don't burn that garlic, because once the garlic is burnt, bleh, the sauce is ruined. I throw in some of my, I'm going to add my roasted red peppers to the sauce. It just gives it kind of rounds out the sauce a little bit, so it's just not like a straight tomato sauce, like a marinara. Throw a little bit of salt and some more fresh parsley. This is going to be blended, and I'm going to puree this in the blender so it doesn't really have to be perfect. So I'm going to reduce this just for about 5 minutes. It's going to thicken up just a little bit. Then I'm going to pop it in the Vitamix and blend it up, and that's going to be a little bath for the meatballs. It's your old friend John Simmons from Firefly Tapas Kitchen and Bar. I got a quick tip for you: how to quickly and violently chop garlic. I like to use a big cleaver. You got your garlic, boom, smush it, chop it. It's fun, it's fast, it's quick, it's violent, it's chopped garlic. You can see here I broke up the tomatoes a little. It's just starting to thicken. Whoops. You're gonna love this sauce. I mean, this sauce is great with pasta. It's great with pizzas. All right. I think we're ready to roll. I'm gonna check on my meatballs. I think they should be about done. Those look nice. Yeah, they got a little bit of brown on them. They kind of melt a little bit, so you can see the bits of garlic and the bits of cheese and stuff kind of peeking out. Yeah, these are done great. Put those aside, just let them rest for a minute while I blend my beautiful sauce. So this sauce I put together with like 6 ingredients in about 15-20 minutes. You can also use an immersion blender for this. Just put it in a container and blend it up with one of those little stick blenders. But luckily, we've got this Vitamix here, which is the Cadillac of blenders at restaurants. You got to be careful because when you're blending these hot liquids too, you got to make sure you got a little ventilation. Otherwise, you end up with a face full of hot lava. So start it off very low and then increase it. Voila! It's a little roasted red pepper and tomato sauce. Let's do this. Wow, look at that. That's beautiful, just like me. So this is going to provide the bath for the balls. Got a mess going here. Best way to do this, get a little plate. I'm going to plate up my meatballs. Come on, buddy. If you have a broiler, it's nice to stick them under the broiler. But our broiler function apparently is not working here, so I'm just going to throw it in the oven for a minute. I'm going to put a little cheese on top, and we're going to melt the cheese on it. So I got my pepper sauce. Boom, 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 boom. That. Put a little cheese on top. I like to kind of garnish it with, I've got these roasted red tomatoes. It's kind of cheating. But just to kind of pretty it up a little bit. These are roasted red tomatoes are kind of slow roasted with garlic and olive oil and stuff, which I don't really have time to show you guys how to do that. So usually at the restaurant, I'll throw it under the broiler, and it kind of makes all the sauce kind of sticky, and it'll melt the cheese. If you have a broiler, that's the way you want to do it. Clean as you go. Unless you have hired help, then just make as much of a mess as you want. So I melted my Parmesan cheese on top of there. That looks nice. Stick some little toothpicks in here. This is kind of the tapas style with the toothpicks. Actually, if you go to Spain, you eat at a tapas bar, the way that they charge you is they have all these snacks on the bar that you eat as you're drinking your wine or sipping your sherry after your shift at work. Everything's on a little toothpick. You keep all your toothpicks, and at the end, they count your toothpicks, and that's how they charge you for the food. So, me, I'd probably be dropping the toothpicks on the ground as I ate. So this is nice. It's a little finger food, great for a cocktail party or for an appetizer. And there you go, Albondigas with the pepper and tomato sauce.
Beautiful. Good. One scotch, one bourbon, one beer.